Are we still going, or are we
Yeah,
gonna?
yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to Back Talks. But first,
This episode is sponsored by Pocky. Let's get talky with Pocky.
Share happiness in just one bag.
Log into Pocky.com to get 10% off the Pocky basket using the code.
POC10, again, POC10.
and win a chance to earn free Pocky for a year.
Thank you, Pocky, for sponsoring our podcast.
So, what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about college, specifically about what it means to be a student.
Paying for books or brains?
Are we paying for a piece of paper, or are we paying for education?
Mark Edmondson talks a lot about this in his article on the uses of liberal education.
Liberalism. It is the base of rights of the individual, liberty, consent of the governed, and equality before the law.
And the education of those rights may certainly be in danger. If you haven't read it, Edmondson's article is about his dissatisfaction with his students. That students say that Edmondson's class is enjoyable or interesting, and they praise him for surface level traits, but they don't talk about the impact of the course itself. And he attributes a lot of this different culture and this different way of thinking to the consumer mindset.
Consumerism is a set of tendency to keep buying and buying. Example, Black Friday sales.
A point Edmondson mentions a lot is the purpose of college, that it has changed over time. It was for education, but now it has kind of like after the war and the GI Bill and the buyer's market and consumerism overall, like it has just completely shifted the meaning and purpose of education.
Well, in a consumer culture says that the best and the most productive people are actually the most passive and the most conforming, with no strong opinions or voices. In a consumer culture, the new is good. What do we think about how consumer culture in our society mindset plays into what college has turned out to be?
I feel like especially since in the article they mentioned how test scores have gone up and things have gotten easier. I feel like lately the market has just been make things easier and make things appealing. And especially when it comes to college, you want to find a place that fits you, but where we find something fitting is something comforting.
Kira, I really like your point about how college has kind of gotten easier and about grade inflation. Edmondson talks about how students worry that taking too many chances with their education can derail them from future success. And in a consumer culture says, stay in line or you get behind.
How do you feel about that, Shivnil?
I feel like consumer culture is also driven by cultural means, for example. I feel like we're all grown up with the pressure of just going to college and money and monetary value, especially children of immigrants. I feel like the idea of just like your immigrant parents like sacrificing so much for you, and you're just like supposed to be like an investment. You're supposed to be there for success. And I feel like with that mindset, we're all driven for a piece of paper. We're not driven for education. We're all driven just to have success, value, and all that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that because I heard a lot of first generation immigrants especially are being held with pressure about oh, you need to go to college because we didn't get the opportunity to. But especially with my parents, my dad, when he was back in Thailand, he grew up really, really poor. And so while he was in college, he was more focused on his job than, getting a degree for a career. Through that, he really wanted me to go to college because he didn't get the opportunity to. And like you said, sometimes it feels like I'm driven by a piece of paper rather than my genuine education and actually trying to learn anything.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like kids in our generation go because we're always told we need to go to make money. We're not going because we want to learn this or because this is what we want to do, but we want to get high-paying jobs. We want to be in that place.
No, I find myself in that constant loop of do I actually really like this? do I like, for example, like medicine? Like, I am interested in the medicine field currently, but do I actually like medicine, or is it just because of the many benefits behind that? Do I really like my classes that I do, or is it just because it's advanced that colleges really like it, or do I really like those classes that I'm doing? And I feel like I'm always with this constant back and forth battle with myself. I don't even know what I like, what I don't like in education. And it's like, it's always that culture that we all grew up with.
And in Yagelski's article, which if you've never read it before, so Yagelski went to this high school, and he met a student that argued with him that like her voice is never being heard because like there's all these people overpowering her. And Yagelski argued with her, saying that media is your new like driving force for raising your voice. Edmondson counters this argument. Well, he did mention that the importance of voice is like, he emphasizes on the importance of voice just as much as Yagelski did. But Edmondson argues that the media really affects schools and students in a negative way. Like, schools have catered to the consumerism market. Like, he mentioned in the article that schools have become a buyer's market now because of things that opened from the consumerism market.
Yeah, no, and I feel that the blame can't be just put on us calling students lazy or unmotivational. A lot of it has to do with people that came before us and how we're being taught today. So a lot of it makes us feel like we're downplayed. Our opinions aren't heard. It's a lot, and for like rubrics for school and stuff, it's a lot of just following instead of us actually expressing ourselves. We don't get to use our voices as often as we would like to. And I know there's a lot of people who try to do stuff today, hence why we have clubs for that, Tuffy Tribune and just things like that.
What I feel interesting though is that high school is very, how do I say it, uniform. But I feel like what is especially marketed in college is freedom. Your ability to go to the campus gym, to go to the campus bowling alley, to the campus library, and just do what you want in your own time. I feel like that is what most universities try to market, especially towards children or high schoolers who are looking for a future for themselves. The idea of learning in the same place while also being in the same place of like a bowling alley or a slushie machine, like you're gonna be more attracted to it because this is what high school is like, but better in your own time with freedom.
Edmondson would say that the inclusion of a bowling alley and increased rec center is just a ploy for consumerism as well, and that when you have Kermit the Frog at your graduation, it's all like one huge package of I'm just here for fun, not to be impacted as a human being.
We're kind of at a point where we do need that kind of consumerist appeal, but we also need to be held to same standards. That the main reason why we're going to college and why we're going to school is to learn.
I feel like Edmondson really pushes on the fact of leniency and how things have become so much easier for us.
But Edmondson talks a lot about how the consumerism market, the consumer market kind of affected the students' mentality towards school. And he mentioned in the article that students have lost their passion and their voice through the market. So what do you guys think about that?
It's an ideology of being self-dependent and self-reliant.
And having your own voice and having your own thoughts.
Got you. So Edmondson brought up a really unique individual that I want to talk about in this podcast is June Lee. So June Lee, as what Jacita said, how we're lost with our self individuality in school, but June Lee actually counters this. What's his name? Edmondson. Edmondson talks about how June Lee talked about movies, sci-fi, all of that in the psychology class, and talking about all this things in his life. And I feel like I wish that I could do that. I feel like with me, I'm always about rubrics in classes.
Hey, so this is editing Jacita. I'm sick at home right now and editing the video. But what happened was I kind of lost all the footage from this point on. So you're gonna be viewing a Subway Surfers gameplay for the rest of the video. Thank you.
I'm always like, what's gonna get me that 4? And I'm like, oh, I only need to do this? Okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna pick and choose what I need to do for that 4.
I just feel that, yes, it's good. We want to aim for good grades, but we're so strict on we need to follow this. We need to type like this that it's not actually expressing. It's kind of hard if we're following these rubrics and curriculum to actually express ourselves.
I think in the article he talked about this one girl who was always just like a yes man, just like always being like, oh yeah, yeah, I agree with that, instead of sharing her actual feelings. And so I'm guessing she was kind of like, I wouldn't say embarrassed, but in a way restrained.
And also Edmondson recounted a time where a student or some students came into his office and talked to him about how they felt embarrassed that he corrected them during class. And I want to segue into all of our shared experiences, how our first encounter with being actually criticized for our writing. As we all know, COVID happened and the standards dropped. There's no denying that.
It wasn't even just COVID though. I really wanted to talk about sophomore English.
Go ahead.
Sophomore English was possibly the most damaging, useless year that I ever.
I'm going to express.
Sophomore English teachers never really gave honest feedback. They just, you really could tell that they just skimmed through it and just oh yeah, that's a good word count, and they were never genuine. And we talked about this before.
Yeah.
But you never really knew what a 4 was for sophomore English, because everything was always a 4.
You're right, you never knew what a 4 was, but also if you got a lower grade, you weren't told why you got a lower grade either. When we stepped into this class we're taking now, when we got that feedback, we were like, oh, we all got humbled.
Sophomore English was honestly a big slap in the face, because I'm not gonna say any names, but T, she knows who she knows who she is. From the moment I saw her, it was just why? She would never teach the class fully. She would always sit on her desk, drink Starbucks. That's it. And when I asked her one time, should I take college composition, she looked at me and said, oh, this class requires more rigorous work and someone who actually does their work. And I was like, wow. But look at me now.
On the topic of college composition, can we all trauma dump on the Common App?
First of all, it was a self-esteem issue for me.
I just feel then I was so conditioned that, oh, I was probably gonna get a good grade. So then when I didn't get one, I was like, what? I was so confused.
That kind of brings us back to Edmondson's point. Do we prioritize comfortability or criticism?
And I would also like to mention another article that we read in class, or most people should have read, was Knobloch. I really liked comparing the two of these, because while they did have some similar point of views, I think the major difference I noticed it was that Knobloch was arguing that society views literature as a compelling aspect, that everyone wants to know how to read, everyone wants to know how to be better and wants to utilize it in many types of way. But Edmondson was saying that many aren't really truly engulfed in literacy and its offers and the values of it. They just want to get that, like we mentioned plenty of times, get that paper that says, oh yeah, I know literacy, I know English, I'm good at this, I can write. But they do both mention the culture. Knobloch just considers it high culture, which is consumer culture in Edmondson's terms. So they do kind of have these different aspects, but they do also kind of align in their viewpoints of literacy, which is what I really appreciated about reading Knobloch in Edmondson.
Do you wanna name names of the sophomore teachers to close us out?
Ms. Tracy.
There's another one.
Yeah. Mr. Fagan.
And that was Back Talks with Kira.
Shivnio.
Mari. Jacita.
Darren.
Diego.
See you next time.
Love ya. Mwah.